Peace. So Goon Lumumba back, the Black Fathers Academy. And so my angle a little different today. You're used to seeing like the red, black, and green flag that I have on my wall, but I just purchased this tripod. So I gotta work it out. You'll probably be seeing some different angles, and probably I'll start being in different rooms and doing stuff outside, trying to figure all of that out. You know, sound quality and things like that. But what I wanted to talk about today was developing our greatness, right? And that could be a multifaceted thing in terms of developing our greatness. I think, for one, we need to have a place of peace as black men to be able to like really be able to assess what does it mean for us to be great. And once we've understood what it means for us to be great as men, then how do we translate that to being a father, right? So, with us being men, first, the development starts with us as being a man, not a father first. Because whatever you don't have as a man, you're going to poorly deliver as a father. So, as we develop or reassess standards that we have had for ourselves as men, then we can really start to do the necessary work and give it time. And give it time. All of us are at different stages of our development. And it's important that, for one, we have a place of peace. There's a lot of things that go around, a lot of, I don't want to say myths, but there's just certain unhealthy practices that we're taught, you know, and some of those unhealthy practices are work, 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 work yourself to death, don't really get sleep. Men don't have the space to cry and to vent. They don't have that opportunity, and that's not true. That's only true if you allow that to be true. But in real life, you have the space to do whatever you actually desire to do. So we don't want to put limitations on ourselves. We don't want to go by things that we've been hearing for years, and we want to get out of going on that hamster wheel. We really want to get away from that because it does not really lead to our liberation as men and our development that our children really need to be able to see and to learn from. So developing that place of peace, you know, whether that's doing things to work on our mind, that could be counseling. I've talked about this before. Brotherhood. Different exercises, different processes that we put ourselves through that help to renew us, our thinking, allow us to be better men, which like should eventually become us being better fathers. So developing standards for our greatness, giving ourselves milestones, goals, and things that we want, and making sure our children are a part of those milestones. What do we want to develop within them? Is there something new that we want to teach them in terms of a specific focus? A specific focus, like prime example, I have a 16-year-old daughter. And my 16-year-old daughter, she's very soft spoken. She has fiery energy, but she's very soft spoken. And I know when she get out in this world what she's subject to encounter, especially by the behavior of other males. I understand that we live in a patriarchal society. I understand that as black men, we are taught in this culture to not see black women as our equal. We are taught things that is just not the best for nation building for us as a people. It's just not good, right? I can go into the different things that we've been taught. And so I've always want her to understand her power as a woman or a young lady growing into a woman and be unapologetic about it. No matter what other men have to say, I want her to stand her ground and be firm and not feel bad because when she's sharp on something or when she's on something, somebody might want to give her the title, oh, you the angry black woman, the bitter black woman. These different things. Those things exist, but they have to be defined and they have to be examined closely, because sometimes sisters have gotten that label just because they're not taking no shit off nobody. Just because, right? And so we can't just go around throwing those labels. But I understand that my daughter will have labels misappropriately placed on her. And I need her to be able to have the spiritual strength to dig deep within herself. I need her to be able to have the insight, the courage, and enthusiasm to communicate who she is to the world in a certain manner. That when people see her, particularly men, they know she mean business. You know, and whatever you had a thought about your, you know, whatever degrading ideas you've had about a woman, you know, the things that we believe in, or some of us believe in, she ain't going for it. She don't play by those rules. So you got to do something else. You got to step up your intellect in order to talk to her. You got to evolve your thinking to maintain a conversation with her. That's what I am developing, or I'm playing a role in develop her into. So that's a specific focus that I've had on her for years. And it'll be the same thing with my younger two daughters, you know, because I have a total of 3 daughters. So that's a specific focus. It's them understanding their power as a black woman in a male-dominated world, right? In a male-dominated world. And it's not just white males that they got to look out for. They got to look out for black males, because even though a lot of us don't realize it, and it's a culturation process that have happened to us as African people over here, we think like white people a lot of times on a cultural level in terms of the things that we embrace. You know, we might don't always embrace American cultural values down to the T the way how Europeans do, but there's still a lot of thinking that we have about women, you know, and just about certain things about men that really comes from their cultural constructs. And so we have to be careful about that. But this is not a conversation where I am breaking down patriarchy and what males think. I'm just trying to use all of those things as an example to illustrate that I'm constantly working with my daughter so that she's able to be a strong black woman. And I hope that if you are a black father, I hope that you have that in mind, or you're already doing that, or learn how to do that for your daughter, because some of us, we do not protect our young black daughters the way that we should. And it's because our thinking is not evolved enough, not matured enough to really be able to rear them with that type of love. So if you as a black man have mommy issues, you have women issues, you have a certain disdain about women, you know, and you always spouting that stuff out. Even if you're not, it's in your actions. It's just in the way how you show up as a man. That's going to affect and impact your daughter. And possibly what that does is when she seeks mates, she doesn't have the proper standards. She doesn't understand the proper criteria. That's another thing that I've been talking to my daughter about, my oldest daughter specifically about for years, is about a criteria that she should have before she has a boyfriend, you know? And did she follow that when she got her first boyfriend, which was recently? No, she did not. I'm not there to control that process. She did not follow it. But the relationship did not last long because she realized that the boy was not hitting certain markers for her. His conversations, there wasn't enough substance in the conversations. So in a reverse way, she was starting to look at, or she started to implement what I was telling her. She just did it after the fact. But I understand she's young and she's going to be kind of impulsive about some of those things because she's never had a relationship with a boy before in that capacity. So I understand that. But we have to lay down the groundwork. We got to develop levels of greatness, standards of greatness, and defining what does these things really look like. Who do I need to become? And so when we look at what do we want our children to have, do we want them to have good communication skills? Do we want them to have good money skills? Do we want them to be open-minded? How do we place them in the seat of learning and be a part of that with them? What do we have to be? What do we have to become in order to get that job done? I think that's the mindset. That should be the mindset. Is who do we have to be? What are the things that we need to change so that we're able to teach? Now, I've talked about this in one of my earlier videos before about being the example. There's some of us as fathers, we preach a very good message. We preach a very good message, but we're not living that message. That's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy. And we need to stop that. Now, I understand that we're not perfect. We're all flawed. Especially me. We're all flawed. But the mission is to correct the wrongs within us as we go along. And if we really love our children enough to want them to have a good chance, a good shot in this world, one of the greatest things that we can do for them is sacrifice our own ego. Be open to change. I don't know why I pointed to my mind when I said ego. I didn't have to stop there, but that just made me think for a second. But controlling our ego so that we can make the necessary sacrifices so that we're able to properly develop our character. Because when you live the good message, that is going to be a different type of teaching, a different type of orientation than when you're just teaching a good lesson. So, if you're the type of person that's not very mannerable, but you're telling your children to be mannerable, it's easier when they see it. And a lot of times, our children will start to have certain things inculcated into them just by seeing us. They won't even know how it got there, just from them observing you. Just by them observing you. They will start to pick up on these different things. So, overall, we have to have a focus on not just teaching the message. The focus has to be on living the message. Because they can see it. They can see it. When you just talk it and you're not walking it, sometimes what's going to be missing in their orientation is really how to walk it. Like, well, how do I do this? How do I have an idea? Now, they can identify with other people in society to do that. But you were the one that brought the word to them. You're the one that brought the teaching to them. You're the one that brought the awareness. It would be more balanced if not only can they hear what you're saying, but they can see what you're saying. Even if the way how they execute it is not the same way how you execute it, they get an idea of how the execution is done. Because I've always taught my children, I want y'all to remember what I teach, but it's not for you to become like me and do things how I do things. I do things according to what works for my personality. The way how you manifest certain things, whether it's communication, that's your own individual spirit. And I don't want to get in the way of that. But the lesson conceptually must touch. Let's develop these standards of greatness. If you like this video, please do subscribe, share it. Check out my website, IamPoetDeep.com. Later.